Hello and welcome to the Women Racing to Win. Joe San Diego here from the Grid Network. Daniel from Racers to Girls Behind the Helmet. Several stories to talk about, including some Alpine racing, Formula Regionals, NASCAR trucks at Darlington, known as the track Too Tough to Tame and the Lady in Black. We'll first start off with Formula Regional, European Championship by Alpine.
Good morning, everyone. As you said, Joe, there was a big weekend last time out, and Formula One, together with Formula One, was racing also the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Pretty long name for a championship. It was the second round of the season, and the second time together with Formula One. They were racing at Barcelona, Circuit de Montmeló in Spain, of course. And it was the second race of the season for the Spaniard Belén Garcia, the young driver, 21-year-old from Barcelona. So it was her home race also. She has been announced as a partial time racer in this championship, and so far this is also the second and last race that she is scheduled to race in the Formula Regional by Alpine this year. Belén was pretty okay in the first race last time out in Imola, but definitely made some huge progress in Barcelona in the first practice session, at least on pace wise. But let's go back to the second female racer that was also in this championship. For the first time, was also Lena Buller was joining the championship. Here she is. You can definitely check both of the drivers in their social media profiles. And Lena was also scheduled. She will do the full season, even though she had a pretty serious accident in the very first time out in pre-season testing in Imola, like now 6 weeks ago. And she broke her hand. She had 2 fractures in her right hand, and she was basically off for the whole pre-season testing. There was 3 pre-season testing days in Imola, in Barcelona, in Le Castellet. So definitely she missed out on every test. She had very little kilometers mileage in the car, and she made her racing debut straight into racing in Barcelona. So definitely a very, very demanding task for Lena Buller. Both drivers, both Lena and here they are, both Lena and Belén also just had one season previous season in Formula racing, and they were racing in the Spanish Formula 4, Belén in 2019 and Lena in 2020. So they were also pretty new to Formula 3 racing. We remind you that the Formula Regional by Alpine is using the Tatus Formula 3 car that is also used in the W Series and in some other regional Formula 3 championships. Belén showed impressive pace improvements, as we said, in practice, and she was around P19 and P20. This season, the Formula Regional by Alpine, there is a huge field of 34 cars. So being around P20 for first time out in such a competitive series, because there's all the drivers and the teams that are coming from the Formula Regional from last year, and also from the Formula Renault Euro Cup. So a hugely competitive series, probably in my opinion also more competitive than the FIA Formula 3 Championship that is also racing week in and week out with Formula 1. Belén did very well in practice, but unfortunately with such a huge field, she was struggling a little bit into qualifying, and she was P28. But Lena, of course, she had a mountain to climb with such a little testing. She was P32, so definitely not too bad. She was not last. She didn't make any mistakes. Wasn't in the gravel. She was pretty clean weekend for Lena, and we see her in her Thursday track walk in Barcelona. Race 1, unfortunately, was not great for Belén. There was again all down to the massive field in this championship. When you're starting a little bit back in the grid, maybe in the midfield and lower in the second part of the grid, trouble is around the corner, and there was a pretty big crash between Nicola Marinangeli and Cass Havercourt in the first lap at turn 7. And Belen, luckily she was able to avoid the crash, but she slipped on some dirt that was brought on the track by the crashing cars just in front of her, and she spun. She was able to rejoin. She didn't have any particular damage, just a flat spot that definitely hampered her race, but no massive damage. But of course, when she with 34 cars on the race, she rejoined pretty much last, and it was very, very difficult for her to recover. And she finished P27. On the other hand, Lena had a very clean race, did what she had to do, did some pretty decent mileage in the car, had a little bit more experienced, and finished P25. So also here we see both Lena and Belen right behind her. Lena finished pretty well. I mean, in such a huge field of P25, and her very first time in the car, and 2 months after the last time she had climbed into the Tattoos Formula 3 car. Not bad, and I would say also better than someone could have expected with such little mileage. In the second race, unfortunately, it was even a shorter race for Belen Garcia. She was out in the first corner because she was hit from behind from another driver, from Jason Ferrati. Again, she didn't have huge damage and could complete the race. She did rejoin, but again, she was last and very difficult to recover. It was pretty much very similar race from the first one, with Lena Buller again being able to finish the race with no mistakes. She didn't put a foot wrong in throughout the whole weekend. I would say very promising and encouraging from the young Swiss driver. And the next race will be in Monaco, on the mighty Monaco Street Circuit, when Lena Buller will be again in the Formula Regional Via Alpine Championship. And so far, there is no confirmation of Belen Garcia. That she said after the race that she would definitely like to have another go in this car and in this championship. But so far there's nothing confirmed, and she will be back in the car next week, from 17th to 21st of May for the first and only collective testing for W Series. That we will see if she can manage to have another deal for another Formula Regional race. I would say that it will definitely help her prepare for the next W Series championship.
Definitely, all that experience being gained right before testing for the W Series, that's going to be really big benefit for her. And of course, definitely we're going to be following the W Series right here on the Grid Network on this show, as well as our Grid Live pre-race every Saturday and wrap up every Sunday. A lot to follow. And of course, this last race weekend, we had the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series from Darlington, the track known as the Lady in Black. The reason it got that nickname is because so many drivers have hit that outside wall in turn 1, 2, and 3 and 4. It creates a black streak, and that's how they got the name, the Lady in Black, one of NASCAR's toughest and most historic racetracks. And one of the big things we saw was for only the 9th time, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series coming out here to race. Their history, they've been around since 1995. This is only the 9th time they came here, and we saw the track was really too tough to tame. A record 12 caution flags. So essentially 12 times the safety car had to come out, collect the field, and restart the race. And it was on the 9th caution we saw a huge pileup. Taking a look here, you can see where the start finish line is. And traditionally the trucks or stock cars, they'll go with no issue. Well, the top two, John Hunter Nemechek and his teammate, got together and sparked a huge 15 truck pileup, which resulted in a lot of trucks getting beat up. Essentially, we saw a red flag period to stop the race for a cleanup session. And after the red flag was out and removed, the yellow flag came out. That's when NASCAR teams could start fixing their trucks. You cannot work on your trucks on a red flag like in Formula One. Red flag, no activity, no repairs on the pits, nothing on the track. Once that yellow flag did come out, Haley Deegan was one of several drivers that was in that wreck but continued on with the race. She had some front end damage. Came into the pit stop, got that front end damage repaired. She was able to continue on and finish the race. However, exiting turn 4, she got spun, hit the inside wall at Darlington, where if you take a look, you can see the exit of turn 4, and there's that inside wall. It is a safer barrier, so steel reinforced with foam, and then the concrete wall at the very back end, so you don't have that hard impact, but still, that hard impact tore up her truck. She was essentially done for the night. However, the leaders had started a last lap, so the yellow flag came out. So she's still listed as finishing the race despite causing that last crash. Overall, it wasn't a great weekend for her. She started off 10th place, kept the truck in good conditions until that big crash, and then ended up finishing 20th place with everything that had happened towards the end of the race. Jennifer Jo Cobb, again, she was in the race. She avoided the big one, but had overheating issues. This dropped her down, and she had to try to address the cooling issues of that engine, not to let it overheat and then blow up. South Carolina, where Darlington is located, is notorious for very hot conditions in the southeastern part of the United States. Jennifer Jo Cobb started 37th place, finished 24th despite the overheating issues, which put her a few laps behind. Of course, avoiding that big crash was a big help for her in avoiding and trying to get a better start for next race weekend, which will be in Circuits of America. For the first time, the Truck Series will be racing at Circuits of America along with the NASCAR Cup Series. Definitely going to be a very exciting race. And with after that race, there's only 6 races left before the NASCAR Truck Series playoff. The way the Truck Series and the top 3 NASCAR divisions work, you don't have a full season points. You have a playoff system. So the last few races, all the drivers in the playoffs, which are race winners, and drivers without a race win, but fill out the remaining spots based on points. Right now, when it comes to the playoffs for the trucks, 10 drivers will advance into the playoffs. Haley Deegan, Jennifer Jo Cobb, neither one of them are in the top 10 of points, and only 3 drivers have secured a spot in the playoffs so far. So right now, Haley Deegan, Jennifer Jo Cobb, to get into playoff contention, easiest route is to get that win. Get a win, you're locked in the playoffs. Points, you got 7 races left, counting Austin, Circuits of America. But after Circuits of America, there's only 6 races left, and they're beyond 15th place and further back. It's going to be pretty much try to go for wins. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Truck Series drivers compete with just a few races left before the NASCAR playoffs. One series that doesn't do playoffs of any sort, British Touring Car Championship, and we go to Dan about Jade Edwards' race weekend there.
Yeah, the British Touring Car Championship is a very, very popular series in the UK. Let's say that its history dates back to 1958, so we can understand how much of popularity has grown throughout the years. I would say that probably after Formula One is one of the most followed racing series in the UK, and also counts on a huge broadcasting schedule in both nationally and internationally. And it was a little bit of a historical moment last weekend for BTCC when Jade Edwards made her full season debut. She had made her one-off debut last year in Silverstone, and we reported from a race. But now she has managed to get a full season seat with BTC Racing. She's racing with an Honda Civic. Very competitive team, actually. They also won race 1 and race 2. But Jade, of course, was making her debut, so in a hugely competitive field of 30 cars. So we were expecting her to be around the midfield. Also, after the pre-season test that was a couple of weeks ago in Silverstone, she showed definitely great speed and good pace. She was around the top 10 all day. So definitely it was interesting to see Jade probably trying to break into the point scoring positions. She was P17 in qualifying. It was a little bit of a mixed weather conditions weekend in Thruxton, which is also often described as the fastest circuit in the UK. There's a lot of very fast and flowing corners with not huge braking zones, except for one last chicane. So very small but really interesting circuit, and there was some rain at the beginning. And qualifying was mixed weather. Then the race one was dry, typical British weather, I would say. She was P17, as I said, in qualifying, and she battled in the midfield throughout the first race. She lapped competitively. She didn't make mistakes, and she finished P20. We said that P20 for a rookie in such a very competitive championship like the British Touring Car Championship is pretty huge. So definitely great first step for Jade Edwards in the championship. In her first time last year in Silverstone, in her one-off in Silverstone, she was around also those positions, but she was ultimately pushed off track by a driver, ironically the same driver. And in race two, she had a very short race. Unfortunately, she was off in the first corner when also the same driver that had pushed her off track in 2020 had a massive crash into another car, and that car rolled over Jade's car, and all three went very hard at high speed into the tire barrier. Cars were really damaged a lot. The race was red flagged, and there was a long interruption. Luckily, all the drivers were unhurt. And if the driver that had caused the accident initially suggested that he was caught off guard by a mechanical issue, that ultimately proved not to be completely true, because the race stewards handed him a penalty, a 3 points penalty, and a £2,000 fine. So he would definitely be considered guilty for the race accident. And even though the BTC Racing crew and mechanics did a fantastic, phenomenal job in trying to rebuild basically Jade's Honda, she tried to go onto the grid for race 3, which was contested in Sunday afternoon. When the cars were on the grid, there was a huge downpour, and all of a sudden there was it was like a tire lottery, with some drivers starting on slicks, some other on wets. It was ultimately a very entertaining race up front, but Jade Edwards could not make the start, unfortunately, because of an electrical issue. We all know that this issue can happen when a car is rebuilt in a very few hours, in such a short amount of time. The team did all its best, but the car was really a lot damaged after the race 2 incident, and she could not make the start. She did try to go on track for a couple of laps, just to shake down the car when she was already a lot of laps behind. She did complete 3 laps and then pitted again. But yeah, I would say that her weekend basically finished after the first race. She was P20. She comes home with a P20 in overall, a P14 among the privateers, because of course, being such a hugely competitive championship, there are also a lot of manufacturers, teams, and official drivers. So there is also a small championship for the privateers, and she was P14 there. And she was P4 among the drivers, the rookie drivers standings, which is another class for the BTCC. The next race will be at Snetterton, and we hopefully will see Jade making more progress. I would say that it was a promising first race, pace-wise, in such a hugely competitive field.
Hugely competitive field. Big race weekend, of course, when it's always your first race weekend, but quite often doesn't go your way. And just one of those deals didn't go her way at the end, but overall positive race weekend. Big positive race weekend. Double podiums in the Alpine Europa Cup. There we saw Garcia, Reyes, and Velu Wadu claim podium finish in Magnifique course the second round of the Alpine Europa Cup. Now, this course may sound familiar, especially for some Formula One fans. That's because prior to Paul Ricard, this was the site of the French Grand Prix. Ledoux had looked strong all weekend and topped the first practice. She qualified third. Really impressive. When it came for Garcia, was fifth in practice and qualified 13th due to heavy traffic and wrong timing of a red flag. What happens if you're on a hot lap and an accident occurs? There's a red flag, and that hot lap is essentially gone. So she had to start way in the back, and that was a bit of an advantage for her because in race one, a huge crash on the hairpin on lap one took out several competitors. Ledoux managed to avoid the carnage just in front of her, but had to go off the track, rejoin lap because of course if you go off the track, those tires they're collecting all sorts of debris off the track, has to fall down towards the back. For Garcia, big advantage for her. A stunning start. She was up to third place after a long safety car period. We again saw Ledoux doing everything can to put together one of the most incredible recoveries we've seen in a long time. She made 7 positions in the 2 laps after the safety car. Just pass after pass. Very exciting race. And this is the kind of stuff we love to see when it comes to motorsports. It's a driver making the best of something bad and getting towards the front. He was coming on back, P5 overall. For Garcia, definitely defended third place, crossed the line fourth place. However, still the second place finisher was a guest driver. Guest driver are ineligible for points. Garcia secured her first podium in the championship with P3 overall. Very exciting race for her. Race 2, we saw a little less action compared to race 1. We, of course, race 1, that big first lap crash we saw. Race 1, Malay, the defending champion, got the win overall, was just untouchable. Back-to-back wins. When it came to Ledoux, what we saw from her that first race, we saw again same great performance. Didn't have to go off the track at all. P3, very excited, playing that podium. Then for Garcia, he was able to come up to 8th place. Overall, a very good weekend for both racers, and especially considering they avoided that big crash in race 1. Earning that track time is so important in these feeder series. The Alpine Europa Cup is one of them where you're on the track, you're logging laps, you're gaining experience that the other drivers, especially the ones that only completed 1 lap, are missing out. The next race for them will be in Spa-Francorchamps next month. Of course, that is the site of the Belgian Grand Prix. And right now, Ledoux is now second overall in the points. A very exciting start for her. We got a very exciting weekend coming up.
Yeah, very busy one. I would say there are going to be, I would say, a couple of really interesting weekend coming up in both in the ADAC, the ADC GT Masters, which is starting this weekend at Oschersleben in Germany. We also we will be reporting from all the races in the ADAC championships. Simona De Silvestro is back in this championship. She switched team, but also always in the Porsche machinery. But she will be racing for Herbert Motorsport, which is one of the top teams. So definitely, it's going to be interesting to follow Simona Di Silvestro making some progress in the ADAC GT Masters. But I would say that probably one of the most interesting championship that will start this weekend is the ADAC GT4 Championship, another German series that is also following the GT Masters, which is the premier GT3 championship in Germany, and of course the GT4 that with the GT4 cars. There will be a brand new team, an all-female team. We always see new, interesting all-female teams being created and making progress. It will be the team Drivers, which is of course a little word games with drivers and diverse, because of course they are bringing diversity and inclusion to the forefront. This team will line up Charlie Martin, which is with the first transgender driver to last year. She took part in the 24-hour of the Nürburgring. So definitely an interesting driver. She will line up with Sandra van der Slot in a BMW M4 GT4. The team is also it will be running 2 cars in the remainder of the season, but so far they will start with 1 at Oschersleben. Also, there will be Gabriela Hilkova. We interviewed Gabi, also known as Quick Gabi for her sim racing fans. She won the GT Winter Series this year with Team Zaxpil in a Mercedes AMG GT4, and she will be back in that car in the same team for the ADAC GT4 Championship. And also there will be Victoria Frost, who is making a switch from TCR into the GT4 machinery. So definitely will be interesting to follow more from them. I personally will be at the Circuit Paul Ricard in France, in the south of France, for the first round of the Italian Formula 4 Championship, with Hamra Al-Kubaisi making her second season making her debut this year in Formula 4, in Italian Formula 4. It's her second season there. Last year she claimed a couple of top 10 finishes, which is very good for such a competitive championship. It is probably, and I would say most definitely the most competitive Formula 4 championship in the world. The initial starting grid entry list, I would say, for this upcoming race in Paul Ricard, so 40 cars, so huge field. And we'll be seeing again Hamda Al-Kubaisi switching from Iron Lynx to the Prema official team. So a little step up from a team for Hamda. And also we'll be seeing for the first time Maya Welg, who is the first female driver in the Ferrari Driver Academy program. We followed the selection last year with the Girls on Track selection by the FIA Women in Motorsport together with Ferrari. Maya will be racing for Iron Lynx with the official Ferrari support, and we are very curious to see her very first race in Formula Cars. We'll be there, and so we will definitely report from the track with some more content next weekend. But also in the south of France will be racing Euro Formula Championship with Vivian Ketzeli making her return to the Formula 3. But also again there will be ELMS with Iron Dames in Red Bull Ring. There will be IMSA at Mid-Ohio with also only Catherine Legg in the car this round because of a little sponsor issue, but hopefully the whole female team with also Christina Nielsen and Bia Figueiredo will be back for the remainder of the season. Also we have the first race of the championship for Euro NASCAR at Valencia with Arianna Casoli and Alina Loib-Negger racing there. There will be Formula 4 US with Emily Linscott and Chloe Chambers. There was also Juju Noda, the very young Japanese star. You will remember that she was scheduled to race in the US this year. She will be making her return to the Formula 4 Danish Championship. It was announced yesterday. And many more championships. So we definitely encourage you to visit our website, and here it is, to check out all the races and the timing schedules for the upcoming weekend.
Very exciting weekend of racing, and definitely encourage everyone to visit the website racersbehindthehelmet.com. And of course, on the weekend, visit Grid Network right here on YouTube. We got Grid Live pre-race. We're going to preview everything Saturday. And then, of course, one of the big things, subscribe. We're at 189 subscribers, getting closer to 200. Definitely encourage you to do that. And once again, the website, racersbehindthehelmet.com, for all the information that we discuss and more. For Daniel at Racers Girls Behind the Helmet, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Podiums. Podiums is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Podiums.com There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.